In this video, I'm going to share with you a new popular trend happening with vehicle reports. So I've been watching Ben on his Pleasant Green YouTube channel for a few years now, and I've always been intrigued with the scams that he uncovers. I'm also intrigued with these Nigerian scammers and all this stuff that just people give money away. How do they do that, right? So when I saw him post this video about the car dealership scams, I was really intrigued. I immediately stopped what I'm doing to watch his video. A couple days later, I thought about it again, and I decided to reach out to him because I want to do a video with you guys. And I wrote Ben, I said, hope you're having a great day out there in Utah. My name is Mike Davenport. I own the YouTube channel Chevy Dude. I help people not get scammed by car dealers all over the country. I'm actually a car salesman in Louisville, Kentucky. I saw your video on fake vehicle history reports. I was wondering if I could use parts of your video, mostly interested in the interview with Ronnie. You're gonna find that interview here in a second, and really make a similar video like what you did and make it a collab type video. Look forward to chatting with you. My cell number is Liz. Text is best. Many thanks, Mike. And Ben replies back to me a really short time after, like a half an hour. And he says, hey, no problem. Just a little credit or shout out would be nice. I look forward to seeing it. So this is your shout out and your credit, Ben. Thanks, buddy. Before we get into the video, check out ChevyDudeStore.com. We are coming to the end of the pre-order of the Chevy Dude Wrap hoodie. These things will never be in the store ever again. They're only limited to 300 and there's a few left, so once they're gone, they're gone. We've all heard of Carfax, and we're always out there looking to make sure that we get the best vehicle for our dollars spent. So when Carfax came out, they've done all the work behind the scenes to get the public records. May I mind you, I say public records. You can find all this stuff on your own, but they get those records and put them in a very nice report to you so you don't have to do all the work. So when Carfax was invented, they basically went to consumers and said, hey, come to our website before you buy a car, spend 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks, whatever the case may be, and buy with confidence. Well, that didn't really work well for them. So they reinvented the wheel and they said, you know what? Always
show me the Carfax
when you're shopping for a car at a dealership. So now what they did was put thousands and thousands and thousands of customers coming to a dealership and saying,
show me the Carfax.
And they put pressure on the car dealers to inform you as a consumer. This was a great business model for Carfax. Whereas once was just Carfax, there are now dozens of companies out there performing similar features, which also allows the opportunity for scams. So when we dig into Ben's video, I love that he starts it out with the fake check. And I'm like, come on now, Ben, a fake check, that's something from the 90s that's still happening today. Yes, people still fall for the, oh, I'll give you a cashier's check, it's fake, and they head off with the vehicle. It just happened a few years ago with the used Corvette on the market. So then he goes into talking about how a friend reached out to him and says, hey, check this text message out. This guy wants me to buy a specific vehicle history report on a website that he's never heard of. And he goes on to say, listen, I'll give you a history report, but it's going to be on websites that I trust, and anything beyond that is on you, which is a perfect example and a perfect way to say it to protect yourself. Then he goes into depth of the website, and I gotta tell you, this website looks extremely legit. But then he shows several other websites that all look the same, but they have different names. Same logo, different name. And I probably would have thought about this, but I really didn't while I was watching the video, so he really got me when he used a very fake VIN number to trick the system, and it worked, and said, here's your report. We can get it for you.
Instead of entering my real VIN number, I just enter ABCD.
No.
And guess what? They found my VIN number. Really?
He actually buys a report, and you would think that they'd want to just like skim your credit card number, but that's not the case because they're not asking you for a credit card, but they are getting you to pay $25 for this report. He then does something brilliant and tricks the scammer into actually revealing his real location, and then goes on to showing you the FTC has actually issued warnings on this as far as back as 2018. We're just hearing about this now. So Ben has this nerd friend named Ronnie, and Ronnie does something absolutely brilliant Watch this.
So one of the things that happens with DNS or domain name servers is that when people connect to the internet, you have to go to a website. So for example, you may go to google.com, facebook.com, and the way that works is your web server or your local computer rather will say, hey, I need to know what the IP address of this domain name is. So your computer will reach out, try and get the IP address of that, and then that response will come back to that singular IP address. So when you pass this over to me to go ahead and take a look, I did the actual backwards of that. And by doing the backwards of that, that's called passive DNS. And what passive DNS does is instead of asking the question of what does this domain resolve to, we can actually ask the question of what are the domains that have resolved back to this IP address. You gave me the first domain to go and look at, so I went ahead and I looked at that, and then that came back to resolved back to one IP address. Then from there, I asked that question of what other domains have resolved back to this IP address, and in doing so, that's where I got the over 100 different domain addresses that were related back to this back to the fraud that you were seeing.
Why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5?
So you're telling me that on this single server that this website is on, there are 114 other websites masking as credit report services doing the exact same thing.
Yep, that's right. So it's something where the reason that scammers do this is because it helps them continue doing the fraud without having to completely go to another form of fraud. And that's very much what it was in this case. There was the 114 other websites that the scammers created for doing this type of fraud. And it was all sitting on the exact same IP address.
So to clarify, back in December when this video was launched, since then, those websites have been shut down, presumably opened up with a different name because Ben called them out. So you've got to be careful with all this stuff because they're just making them over and over and over again. If you want to protect yourself when shopping privately or on a dealership's lot, there's only 2 services to use. And I repeat that, there are only 2 services to use. One, Carfax, and the other one, AutoCheck. And I want to go into a little bit more further detail to let you know that Carfax and AutoCheck are not perfect. There's nothing out there that's a perfect system. And when you buy a car, it's still buyer beware. The dealerships are not responsible if you buy a car and the next day it breaks down. That's on you. A good dealership will back you up, but I'm just giving you the information. If we take my 2016 Corvette into an example, we all know that that got hit. There's an info card in the upper right-hand corner if you want to see how that got hit. The AutoCheck does not show an accident, but the Carfax does. All right, now here is a little hack that nobody is going to tell you about. This is really awesome. We know that Carfax didn't do a really good job of getting consumers to pay for it, so they got dealerships to pay for it. You as a consumer still can pay for the Carfax. It's like up to $99 to pull several of them. But here's the hack. If you know a car dealership and you got a really good rapport with them or a friend that works at a car dealership, ask them to pull a Carfax for you because it's free because they pay 1 monthly premium and they can pull as many as they want.